The Mid-America Gospel Music Association Lifetime Achievement Award is presented each year to the person or persons who have influenced the growth and promotion of Southern, country, and bluegrass gospel music. This award is designed to honor those who have dedicated a significant portion of their life to the field of gospel music, either as a singer, musician, songwriter, radio personality, or promoter. The general membership of Magma submits nominations of those within the industry who have been influential in their careers, and they are later voted on by the board of directors. We seek to honor both the local artist who has influenced and mentored the new generation of performers, as well as those from our region whose music has impacted the national gospel music industry. It is our pleasure to be able to honor those pioneers who have and still are representing the ministry of gospel music.
Grace will always be greater than sin. Calvary has proven it time and again.
Tonight's recipient of the Mid-America Gospel Music Association Lifetime Achievement Award is a lady who has been involved in all facets of the gospel music world from an early age. It is our pleasure to present this award to Barbara Huffman.
Always be greater than sin. You gotta keep on holding on, everybody gotta keep on holding on. The devil may try to turn me around, but keep on holding on.
Well, Daniel was a righteous man. He prayed 3 times a day. He said, we put our faith in God. We gotta keep our thoughts away.
In 1965, Jerry and Shirley Huffman and their 3 children, Stephen, Robert, and Peggy, formed a family gospel group. In 1968, they welcomed their 4th child, a daughter, Barbara, and their group would be completed. As the story goes, about the age of 9 months, refusing to sit in the audience with strangers while her family was on stage singing, Barbara's daddy would hold her in his arms while the family sang. The family says that at age 20 months, Barbara grabbed the microphone and started singing. While the words were not always clear, what was clear was that Barbara knew the songs and was singing parts even at that young age. During her childhood days, Barbara's love for music would blossom. She could frequently be found raiding the family's albums or sneaking into her older brother Steve's music collection to play the latest gospel and country recordings he had purchased. She perused the liner notes of each album, studying who wrote the songs, who played the music, and memorized who sang the different parts in each group.
I came on business for the King.
Someone here needs help, and I can't do much. But if we keep on praising, He'll send His touch.
Around the same time her love for music was developing, so was her love of writing. She was the girl who would make up stories with her spelling words, rhyme anything she could, and become intrigued with the writing credits on the albums she listened to. She noticed that the names like Ronnie Henson, Dottie Rambo, Rusty Goodman, and Joel Hemphill appeared often on the music she loved.
I'll pray for you. You pray for me. And together we'll touch heaven from our knees. Anything can happen in His name when we agree. I'll pray for you. You pray for me.
All during this time, she was singing regularly each week with her family group, who toured regionally in 5 states during the 1970s until they had to slow down due to Jerry's illness. The family continued to sing without their mom and dad. Bob, Peggy, and Barbara continued to sing together as the Huffman family, and still do to this day, carrying on a family legacy that this month celebrates 54 years in gospel music. Barbara continued to sing and play with her family group, and also assisted other groups as well. She played keyboards for the Durbans in the late 1980s, and was a founding member of Solid Gospel, singing and playing piano with them from 1989 to 1990. Despite her love for music, Barbara actually obtained her bachelor's degree in business administration in August of 1990. Having immersed herself in her studies up to that time, once graduated from college, Barbara turned to the music industry to fill the time that had previously been spent cracking the books and studying for her degree. She wrote a sample review of a video, something new to the gospel music scene back in the day. Rejected by Singing News magazine at the time, it would be the recommendation of Sandy Duncan Clark to Paul Bowden to give the unknown writer a shot in his monthly newspaper based out of Jonesboro, Arkansas, Mid-South Gospel News, later renamed U.S. Gospel News when the paper went to national distribution. After writing for USGN for 7 years, she was invited to write for the Gospel Voice, a national publication out of Nashville, Tennessee. After writing there for 2 years, the invitation came that she'd sought from the beginning. Danny Jones, then managing editor for Singing News magazine, called with an offer for her to write for the premier Southern gospel publication, the printed voice of gospel music, Singing News magazine. She continues to be a feature writer for this magazine some 19 years later.
Oh, how we always love to sing along. And when Grandpa sang Amazing Grace, no better song was ever heard. And when he would lift his voice in praise, I once was lost, but now I'm found. Oh, there was not a sweeter sound. There must have been a smile upon heaven's face when Grandpa sang Amazing Grace.
Around the time she began writing articles for news publications, Barbara also became more serious about her songwriting. In fact, she'd written many songs, but it was not until the encouragement and support of her mother that her first song was recorded by a national group in 1992, the Trailblazers. The scene was this: Barbara and her mom would go to concerts. While Barbara would be interviewing someone from the group, her mom would be telling the other members she writes songs and they're really good. You should try to get her to sing you some. One day, at the request of the Trailblazers tenor, Doyle Harper, she sent that demo and they cut one of her songs. A year later, the McCameys would recognize her work and record 2 of her songs.
Troubled waters came my way, the angry storm grew near. I prayed for God to speak the words to make it disappear. It seemed the waves would not obey the Master's call for peace. But then the Lord spoke to my soul, reminded me He had control, and said this time His words were meant for me. Sometimes He calms the storm, sometimes He calms me. Sometimes the storm.
From there, the cuts started coming, and so did the singles. By 2001, she had already enjoyed several singles on the chart, but it would be a song called He Calms Me, recorded by the McCameys and released the week that 9/11 occurred, that would take her to the top of the charts for the first time. Number 1 in May of 2002, He Calms Me would also be a Top 10 Fan Award nominee for Song of the Year that same year. It would be that song that would catch the ear of Joel Lindsey and Wayne Hawn, who would invite Barbara to be the first writer they signed to their new publishing company, Sunset Gallery, in 2002. After having several cuts and singles for the next few years, in March of 2010, I'll Pray For You would become her second number 1 song. In 2017, Barbara scored a Dove Award for her co-write with Wayne Hawn when Grandpa sang Amazing Grace, performed by the Nealons. In June of this year, her song, Joy in the House, as singled by the Wisnants, was recognized by the performance rights organization BMI as one of the top 5 Southern Gospel songs, receiving the most radio airplay last year. If you've heard the songs Grace Will Always Be Greater Than Sin by the Hoppers, Rocks Dropping by the Lesters, I Prayed Through It by Susan Wisnant, or Finished Indeed by the Kingsmen, then you've heard some of the many songs by Barbara. Other notable groups to have recorded Barbara's music are Tribute Quartet, Karen Peck and New River, The Perrys, The Inspirations, The Ball Brothers, Lord Song, The Roops, The Mark Trammell Trio, and many more.
In holy pages, this truth can be found, a promise to stand on when darkness abounds.
In addition to all of this, Barbara is the music director at Calvary Church in Fredericktown, Missouri, where she leads worship, plays piano, and directs the choir. One of her duties as music director is organizing concerts that come to their church. She's been responsible for such tours as Christmas Jubilee and Gerald Wolfe's Gospel Music Hymn Sing, along with a host of other national groups who have routinely made Calvary Church a part of their touring schedule. Currently, in addition to her duties as singing news writer, gospel songwriter, and church music director, she is the office assistant and personal publicist to the legendary Hall of Fame gospel quartet, Gold City. And this very day, November 1st, 2019, she is officially retired from her job with the state of Missouri after 29 years, and will be concentrating her efforts on more work in the gospel music industry and working on both a book and a screenplay that she has been wanting to finish for some time. She's also excited to make an announcement in the near future about a couple of other national touring groups with whom she will be working. Please join the Magma board as we welcome to the stage the 2019 Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Barb Huffman.